everyone. I'm here with Valerie Wilson, and she agreed to be interviewed by me. And Valerie teaches macrobiotic cooking, and I don't really know what else, but she can tell you. So, hi, Valerie, how are you?
Oh, hi, Joe. I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for interviewing me, and I appreciate all the interviews that you've been doing.
Thank you. Yeah, so same as always. Where does your story begin? How did you find out about macrobiotics? What led you to it, and all that?
Well, I have been um, teaching cooking classes for 23 years,
Hmm.
and I discovered macrobiotics over 25 years ago. And my story is kind of unique in that when I was a little girl, I used to watch television, and I used to watch Battlestar Galactica, which stars Dirk Benedict. He later on went to star in the A-Team.
Yep.
And when I was a little girl, I knew that he had cancer, and I had heard that he had healed himself from cancer, but I didn't know anything else. I learned that he wrote a book about it. And so I would go to bookstores and I would ask the clerk behind the counter, hey, have you heard of this book? And nobody knew what I was talking about, basically. And I was, very healthy. I was in my 20s, but probably around the age of 18, I developed eczema. And I had a continuing battle with eczema for many years. And of course, the doctors could not help me, right? So I kind of started to look into food, but not really. And I had gotten to the point where I was basically just eating salads because I knew they were healthy for me. And I had stopped eating like white refined sugar for like a year because I knew that when I ate white refined sugar, it made my eczema better. So I would stop eating white refined sugar for a year and I would feel better. But then, you'd go to a birthday party and there'd be cake and ice cream and you'd go ahead and eat it. And then my eczema would flare up. So I was already starting to put together how food was affecting my health. And a friend of mine worked at a health food store. And I walk in there and I'm visiting them. And there on the bookshelf is Confessions of a Kamikaze Cowboy. It was like a ray of sunshine just like hit the book. And it was like, I was so excited. My friend thought I was crazy. But I'm like, no, you don't understand. I have been looking for this book for years. I bought this book and could not put it down. He started talking about macrobiotics, which I had never heard of before. He started talking about the energy of the food, which I was immediately drawn to with the energy of the food. And it's all about his journey about healing himself from prostate cancer. I mean, I couldn't put the book down. And as soon as I got done reading that book, I was like, well, I have to find out more about macrobiotics. What is this? So I went to the local health food stores. I live here in Michigan, and there was a few of them at the time. And I bought every macrobiotic book that I could find. And I just started reading them. And I was very much drawn to the concept of yin and yang and the energy of the food. Like, I'm not a very scientific person, although teaching cooking classes, sometimes I have to be, but I relate more to the energy. And so there was a flyer at one of the health food stores that said this lady was teaching macrobiotic cooking classes. I was so excited. I attended, I think, one or two of her classes, and she announced, I need an assistant. And I immediately went, me, I want to be your assistant. And so I became her assistant, and I worked at her cooking school in Farmington here in Michigan for 2 years as her assistant. Her name is Lenore Bond.
Her name
And
is. I'm sorry that you cut out. Her name is what?
oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so her cooking school, her name was Lenore Bond.
Lenore
And
Baum.
yeah, and she attended both the Kushi Institute and the Vegas Study Center. And I worked for her for 2 years and all of her cooking classes. and I couldn't get enough like knowledge about macrobiotics and how do you use it and things like that. And now my background before I discovered macrobiotics though was my first job when I was 17. I went to work at a deli where we made subs and pizzas and salads. And so I got into food. That was my first job. So I already had like a big background in food. I managed that deli for 5 years, and then I managed a restaurant for a year before I discovered macro. But even before that, my mom likes to tell this story of when I was like 9 years old, and I was in the kitchen, and I wanted to create this recipe, and there was an ingredient that we didn't have, and so I just went ahead and substituted something and just came up with my own recipe. So I've literally been cooking since I was a kid. So I love food. And so, I mean, I am so blessed, and I say this all the time, because now, like I said, I've been teaching cooking classes for 23 years. I offer personal chef services where I cook for people. And I also have cook for people, and they buy food from me. And so I'm so blessed to be able to do what I love, cook, and create new recipes. This is what I do for a living. So in that aspect, I'm so blessed to be able to do that. And so, I mean, I just, you know, this is, when I discovered macrobiotics, I really felt like it was my life's path, you know, because I had been looking for this book for so long. And when I read it, just a light bulb went off in my head, like, this makes complete sense. This is how we're supposed to be eating, and this is how we're supposed to be living, you know, according to the yin and yang and the energies. I mean, it was, you know, it sounds like it was like predestined or something, and I've never looked back. Like, I know people that say, oh, you know, I went macro and I tried macro for a few years and then I fell off the bandwagon. I'm like, how could you fall off the bandwagon? Number one, you would feel terrible once you started to eat, you know, sugar or junk food. So why would you ever do that? And I love the food, the textures, the ingredients. I mean, I am still creating new recipes all the time and using the ingredients. I feel like the possibilities are endless using the healthy, whole ingredients that I do on a regular basis.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I cook all my own food, and I don't use recipes either. Or I don't know if you said you don't use recipes, but I never use recipes, and I always cook delicious. I love my food. It's great. I love cooking. So what else happened?
So when I started, you know, looking into macrobiotics, it's interesting you bring up recipes, because I bought all these macrobiotic books and these recipes, and I would try them, and a lot of them failed. So I was kind of bummed. So I put it in my head, eventually, when I create my own recipes, or when I come out with my own recipe cookbook, my recipes are going to be foolproof, right? They're going to work. But I did discover Christina Carello. She was a lifesaver. Every recipe that I did of Christina's in the beginning worked for me. Now this book, Cook Your Way to the Life You Want, where she talks about the 5 transformations of energy. This is like, I know this book like backwards and forwards, because I studied the 5 transformations of energy from this book. So like in my cookbooks, in my first cookbook, when I gave credit to all my cooking teachers, even though I've never met Christina personally, I gave her total credit as being one of my cooking teachers because of her cookbooks, and also her TV show, which I could watch it back then. Now I don't get it all the time. I know she's still on air, and I give her like total credit as one of my teaching, you know, teachers. And you just interviewed Ed Esco.
Yeah.
And I, when I was just getting into macrobiotics in the 90s, he used to come here to Michigan, and he gave lectures. And every time he was here in Michigan, I went to his lectures. And so I loved the way he taught. I definitely give him credit as being one of my macro teachers too, because I went to all his lectures.
Mhm.
But then he didn't come back here to Michigan, so I was kind of bummed. But he did come back, and I think it was about 6 years ago, and he gave a lecture, and I was hired to be the chef to cook all the food at the banquet after his lecture. And so I made the miso soup and the brown rice stir fry and all that stuff. So I made all the food for the last time he was here in Michigan. And so, and again, here in Michigan, like, I love macrobiotics, in case you can't tell. I'm pretty passionate about it. But we are like in a void here, really, in the macrobiotic community. And throughout the 23 years that I've been teaching cooking classes, I've tried to like get macro people together. Like, I would offer potlucks, and I would have one in the wintertime, and then I would have one in the summertime where I would set up in a park, and I would put these tents up, and we would play volleyball, and I would advertise it as, you know, a macrobiotic vegan picnic. And I had people that came, and we had a lot of fun. But I tell you, they were all vegan people. Most of them didn't know about macrobiotics. So they would bring their well-intending vegan dish that had white rice, tomatoes, or something like that, because they didn't understand the macrobiotic, they understood the vegan. And that's what I get here in Michigan. There's a huge movement here in Michigan with vegan people. Like, we've had an explosion of vegan restaurants, which is great. I'm excited about that. But I don't want to go eat vegan junk food, right?
Right.
So that's not what I want.
So in Michigan, I'm curious, is it who's leading the macrobiotic way? Is it you? Are you sort of the top macrobiotic person to go to in Michigan?
To the best of my knowledge, I am the only macrobiotic person in Michigan teaching cooking classes who's actively doing it. Now, when Ed was here, like I said, like 6 years ago, I did meet another lady that was in Detroit that was offering classes, but I don't see her anywhere. I don't see her that she's active, where I offer classes all the time. Every month I have classes. I also have a YouTube channel where I have videos, and I host a radio show through the internet. It's the first and the third Thursday of the month. I just did a radio show before this interview, and it's called Real Food with Chef Val. And the last radio show I just did, like an hour ago, I talked all about the 5 transformations of energy and cooking for the summertime and the foods that are, you know, available for the summertime. So I host that radio show that anybody can listen to on the internet. And like I said, Michigan, we're in the middle. You know, we're kind of in the middle, so maybe we're excluded from the 2 sides of the United States. But you know.
Well, Valerie, isn't that a sort of an opportunity for you to maybe perhaps step up and become the big macrobiotic leader in that area? I mean, you already are, I guess, but maybe go further with it. Like, maybe do counseling and philosophy teaching, and perhaps you already are. I don't know. But, maybe that's an opportunity for you.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And I always like to be positive. I don't like to be negative, but my situation is marketing. I am not good at marketing. I am not good at advertising, and I openly admit it. I believe and I feel in my heart I am a fantastic chef. People that eat my food are blown away. And I am the author of 5 cookbooks. I just came out with my latest one. But the disconnect is marketing, obviously. Now, I do offer lifestyle counseling. I've been offering counseling for over 15 years.
Okay.
And I can either do it in person or over the phone. And I have had some wonderful stories about the counseling that I've done. I had this lady in Canada. We did all the counseling over the phone, and she had chronic digestive issues her whole life. She thought she had tried everything until we started counseling. And I put her on the basics, and started working, strengthening her digestion. And she was blown away by the results. If you go to my website, which is macroval.com, and you go to the page that says counseling, her testimonial is right there on my page about how her digestion just improved, and she was surprised. And I counseled her for over 2 years, and I still am in contact with her. She has attended some of my Zoom cooking classes, and so she's doing very well. Her digestion is so much better. And right now, I also have another client that I am cooking for and also counseling, and she has lung cancer. And she's had great results too, because she started working with me, and then I think she had a test like 4 months later, and the cancer had reduced by 50%. So that was fantastic. And yeah. Now the challenge is when you're working with people, I always meet people where they are, and I try and be as compassionate as possible, right? So this lady who has lung cancer, she's doing the macro food, but she's also listening to her doctors, and she is taking a chemo drug, and that's her choice. That's what she's choosing. And so I work with her, and I'm trying to work with her with the side effects of the chemo drug in any way that I can help her. And so, I work compassionately with people where they are. And another thing about me too is that when I do a counseling session, it's all about food. But I also am empathic, and I feel energy. So when people come to a consultation with me, most of the consultation is about food. But at the end of the consultation, I express what I feel. And it always comes to emotions, because disease starts in the body from your emotions. And I'm able to tap into that and go above and beyond the food issues too when I do a consultation. So I do offer those services, yes.
That's cool. What, do you mind me asking what your 9 key is?
What my what is?
Your 9-star key? The macrobiotic astrology?
Oh,
I'm just curious.
So I'm not really well versed with that. I am a Cancer, and I was born in 1967. My birthday is July 11th.
So 67. Of course. So you must be a 6th metal then. So I'm also a 6th metal. So 6 in July is 692. Oh, interesting. Well, okay. So you have a lot of leadership potential, but you need to work with someone. You're very bright-minded, passionate. Yeah, you need some support.
Oh, bless you for saying that. I have been saying that for years. I need support. I'm a very hard worker, and I love what I do. I love teaching. I love interacting with people. And unfortunately, now I'm doing Zoom, which is fun. I'm grateful that I can still do Zoom, but I love in-person classes where people are asking me questions and, interacting with me. I really, really love that. In fact, it has been my dream. Okay, my dream is to have a TV show, a cooking TV show. I've wanted this for many, many years. And again, I'm by myself. When I do my YouTube videos, it's me pressing the record button and then getting in front of the camera and then teaching and then pressing the button off, And, you know, I'm open to
Yeah.
support help and working with people.
Yeah. Well, you know, keep plugging away. I'm sure you'll find what you need. I'm the same. I'm alone. I do everything myself. I'm also a sixth metal.
Yeah. So can
But
I tell you about my new cookbook? I'm
yes,
excited.
please do.
It is summer season, healthy and delicious cooking. And so this one is all about the fire energy. The introduction tells you a little bit about the 5 transformations of energy. And it has a soup section because I have soup for breakfast every morning.
Oh.
And yes, and it has the quinoa amaranth red lentil soup. And actually this evening I'm going to make the creamy corn soup out of here because I've gotten some delicious corn on the cob. And then, oh, this is my favorite. I just created this 2 years ago. It's a spicy tempeh brown rice veggie burger. I love veggie burgers, and this one's like one of my favorites. So this is my 5th cookbook. And this one here I came out with probably 5 years ago. So this is spring cooking. So this is also the 5 transformations of energy. My intention eventually is to have 5 books covering all 5 of the seasons. But the summer one just came out, hot off the presses. So I'm excited about that.
They look great. They look very well done, professional, beautiful covers. So congratulations on those. So what's you know, what else can you share with us? What's your big macrobiotic vision? I mean, you already said something like that, but I don't know if you can.
Well, yeah. So yeah, my vision is I would love to have a TV show. And I'm not conceited, I think, but I get so excited about food. Like you can ask my students when they come to the class. I'm like teaching a class and I get like really excited. Or I went and cooked for this lady in Canada. She was such a nice lady. I went there for 5 days. I drove up to Canada and I cooked for her. But she had to be on a special diet, so it was no salt, no oil. But when I got there, she had her cupboard was just stacked with beans and dried daikon. She had dried maitake mushrooms, and she had all this macrobiotic stuff, but it was packed full. And she got a big kick out of me because I was super excited. She had anasazi beans, and I haven't been able to find anasazi beans for years. And I was super excited. I was just like, and then she got the most beautiful organic rutabagas. She got organic turnips, and I was just all excited because the produce and the food that she had. And so I get very excited about food. I have a passion for it. And I just come up with these new recipes, and I want to share the recipes with as many people as possible and teach them that you can live a life with lots of energy, with no pain, right? And you can have clear thinking, you can be happy. Because I have friends, I have lots of friends, and they don't eat the way I do, obviously, but some of them are 10 years younger than me, some are 15 years younger than me. I have more energy, I have more stamina. I don't ever have, knock on wood, I am blessed. I don't have aches or pains, and they're telling me how, you know, this hurts or that hurts, or I'm tired all the time. And I'm honestly like coming from a point of, I feel fantastic. And it's the food. It is the food. For 25 years, eating healthy, whole foods based in whole grains. And I tell everybody, whole grains, 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. And people, especially here in Michigan, they think I'm crazy, but I'm like, no, brown rice, 3 meals a day, millet, 3 meals a day, because a lot of craziness, you know, but here in Michigan especially, high protein diet, right? Because that's the good thing, right? And so it's like, no, no, no. I'm telling you the exact opposite. You need the complex carbohydrates. It's going to give you energy, is what you need, right?
But don't you think three meals a day with whole grains a bit much for most people? I mean, most people would, if you convince them to do that, they'd do that for a while, and then they'd be like, "This is nuts. I don't want to do this anymore." Do you find that?
Well, that is, I don't know, because when I say whole grains 3 meals a day, sometimes that whole grain is in the form of like brown rice pasta. So I do enjoy, brown rice pasta too. I consider that my whole grain meal. Um, that is a good point, and maybe I'm so excited about it. Sometimes I have a problem relating to the people that aren't there because I'm so excited about it. But I do have this really cool story. I was giving these lectures at the local library, and they weren't cooking classes because I couldn't cook there. They were lectures, and they would be topics like, healing from cancer or arthritis. And I had these two wonderful ladies. They came to all the lectures, and in every lecture, I told the people, the first thing you need to do, just start eating brown rice. Before you give up anything else or whatever, your first step, just eat brown rice. And after a while, this lady said, can I give my testimonial? I said, of course. She said, I came here listening to your lectures, and she goes, I really didn't believe you. But you kept saying, eat brown rice, eat brown rice. She goes, so I finally gave it a try. I finally just started eating brown rice. She goes, I didn't change anything else. I ate brown rice 3 meals a day. She goes, I was in pain. My knees hurt me so bad, I couldn't even walk up the stairs. She goes, I am blown away. Just by eating brown rice, she goes, not only am I walking up the stairs, I'm running up the stairs. She goes, I now am going to do the other things that you suggest because the brown rice made such a big difference in my life. So the people that I do reach, I'm excited and happy.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Whole foods, good food, whole grain, all that has very promising benefits for just about everyone. Most people. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. People are going to see results. I want to ask you a different question though. What do you think about the way the world is moving these days with COVID-19 and I don't know, things seem to be changing a lot. And how do you experience all that in relation to your macrobiotic perspective?
Well, I'm not a scientist. Again, I only know about food and the energy of the food. I absolutely love what Ed Esco said yesterday when you asked him this question, because he basically said to eat macrobiotically and you wouldn't even have this disease, or you wouldn't have to worry about it, or something like to that effect. I don't judge people. I don't get in people's faces and put my opinion out there. I really believe that the answer to all this is to strengthen your own immunity. You have to work on yourself, strengthen your own immunity. I think what's going on right now is just crazy. And I don't like it at all. I try and do my own thing and try and help people in the best way that I can. And obviously, I'm never ever going to enter into any stupid argument where one person is saying this and one person is saying that. I'm like, I just walk away and leave it alone.
Right.
Keeping my own peace. I'm trying to keep my own calm and peacefulness in a chaotic environment, basically.
Yeah. And how do you see macrobiotic? For me, I kind of tend to think that there's a revival within macrobiotics because of everything that's happening in the world. Is that something that you're noticing also, like before all this stuff happened versus now? Do people seem more interested, or is it about the same, or what? What's your experience?
Well, that's a good question. I can't say that I really observe more people interested in it. I wish I did,
Hmm.
because this is the answer.
Hmm.
Uh, but people are confused because of all the misinformation about health and nutrition out there.
Right.
23 years ago, when I started teaching cooking classes, I would have classes Mondays and Wednesdays, and I would have anywhere from 4 to 8 people in my classes. I didn't have a problem filling my classes. But then the internet was invented, and all this stuff came out. And now people are promoting high protein diets. People are promoting that carbohydrates are bad. And then you had Dr. Oz. And in the beginning, I loved Dr. Oz. He did say some good stuff, but then he got too much information and he would contradict himself. So through the years of teaching cooking classes, I now have people coming to me that are very confused. Whereas before, they were coming to me and they were hearing me and they were listening to me because I was speaking the truth, macrobiotics. But now it's like, well, wait a minute, because you're saying the exact opposite of what so-and-so said. And so-and-so is a doctor, God forbid, a doctor, because we think doctors know everything, right? When basically they know nothing about nutrition whatsoever. But people get very confused because they're like, well, my doctor said stop eating soy. Soy's bad for you. Oh my God, I get that all the time. Whereas when I first started teaching, I didn't get questions about soy at all. But then, the industry that produces beef and pork and everything, they put all this misinformation out there about how soy is bad for you.
Yeah.
So I have written articles. There's an article on my website about it. And then I put it in the introduction of my year-round healthy holiday dishes. The introduction of this has an in-depth look at soy and how soy is actually really good for you and how the misinformation is out there about soy.
Yeah.
So what I have found now is that people are more confused now. And when they hear the truth, I think they're not recognizing the truth because of all the other stuff out there.
That's interesting. I've come across a lot of information about falsified studies where they manipulate, they manipulate the factors to produce an end result. In other words, they already have a result in mind, and then they manipulate all the factors to produce that result by the meat and dairy industry and whatnot. So there's a lot of fake science out there. And like you mentioned, doctors. Well, a lot of doctors disagree with each other. So just because someone is a doctor doesn't mean they're right. I mean, if one doctor is saying one thing and the other doctor is saying something completely different, well, they can't both be right. I mean, so yeah. I mean, I'm with you about that. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and they do it on purpose.
And then there's also this new movement. It's whole foods plant-based.
Mhm.
And it seems to be big here in Michigan for whatever. There's a doctor here in Michigan who's a cardiologist, and he helps people by putting them on a vegan diet, which is fantastic. I'm so glad they're getting help. But he puts them on no oil whatsoever. And if you're on a healing diet and you need to cut out oil for a while, I get it. But you can't live the rest of your life with no oil. So a lot of vegan people are going completely no oil whatsoever. But because this doctor in a white coat, right? We worship doctors. He said this. They take what he's saying as like the best thing ever. But when I look at the basics of what he's teaching, whole food, plant-based, I'm like, well, that's based in macrobiotic principles. It really is. It's based in principles, right? And he has great success with this. And I look at it and I go, well, that's macrobiotics, basically, right? He's just calling it something else.
Yeah, I mean, one would hope so, but I mean, a lot of times vegans have very bad diets. It depends on what they're eating, and the problem with veganism that I've noticed is the rigidity that people go into it with, and eventually, and I've seen this again and again and again, vegans become hardcore meat eaters once they become really depleted. I'm not saying all vegans, and I'm not trying to say not eating animal food is bad. I'm just saying the rigid dogma that happens a lot of times within vegans turns to its opposite, and it can, especially with bad practice where people don't know what they're doing and they're just strictly avoiding animal food. Then they become depleted. Then they find strength and nourishment in animal food. So
Yes, that is true. And I am vegan, and I have noticed that. I've done a lot of health fairs, and the health fairs I've done here in Michigan have been vegan health fairs. Although when I do my cooking class, you know, in the health fair or whatever, I'm teaching macrobiotics, but I'm included. And some of the most unhealthy people are at these vegan health fairs because they're eating unhealthy vegan food. And there's a huge difference between healthy, whole food vegan and, like I said, just stop eating meat, right? There's a huge difference. And I always, again, I think anything that you do really, really strict and you don't have compassion for the other people tends to cause, I want to use the word dis-ease in your body, because I am vegan, but I have huge compassion for people that eat meat. When I teach a cooking class, I don't stand on my soapbox and hit people over the head and say, you have to do this, you have to do this. I just express that this is who I am, this is what I do. My recipes are this. Now, if you choose to eat animal food, that's your decision. I think you have to make that decision at a soul, spiritual level. Nobody can tell you to do it. You either make that decision at a soul level or you don't. So I agree with you, people who are like really strict dogma and everything, well, of course, that creates disease in the body, which eventually has to be remedied in some way, shape, or form. Where I think the thing that's missing is compassion for the other people, you know, who have a different viewpoint. I mean, I teach healthy, whole food, but I have people that attend my cooking classes that are not vegan.
Right.
I tell people that all the time. I advertise it as vegan, but people say, well, I still eat chicken. I go, you know what? That's a personal decision. You can still come to my cooking class. You can learn the brown rice stir fry. You can learn the miso soup. You know, you can incorporate these healthy dishes into your diet, no matter where you are, basically. So I think compassion is what we need more of.
That's a good point. I think that's a very good point. I know that one of the things that when I do some research on YouTube about keywords and veganism, one of the main things that come up is vegan mac and cheese. And I know that my vegan friends in the past basically loved vegan mac and cheese. That's one of their regular go-tos, and like stuff like that. And they think, well, there's no meat in it, so it's got to be healthy. Well, I don't think vegan mac and cheese is really that healthy, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying never eat vegan mac and cheese, but it's not really something I mean, if you're looking to get healthy on vegan mac and cheese, I don't know if it's going to get you there.
No, not at all. And you mentioned this, but when I was a little girl, my mom's homemade macaroni and cheese was my favorite dish. In fact, when I was a little girl, I ate cheese every day of my life. I loved cheese. It was my favorite food. Now, this book, Perceptions in Healthy Cooking, actually, Perceptions was my first cookbook, came out in 2000, but then I rewrote the whole thing, and I added 5 more recipes. And this one came out 3 years ago, the revised edition. But this cookbook has my macaroni and mochi, where I use mochi to make my cheese sauce. And my mom would make the macaroni and cheese with a traditional white sauce, you know, with the milk and the flour, and then you add the cheese. So I make a mochi sauce where you melt the mochi, you pour it over the pasta. This recipe reminds me of my mom's homemade macaroni and cheese. Not that Kraft box thing, that's terrible, but my mom's homemade. And in the wintertime, my regular customers, they want me to make this macaroni and mochi just about every week for them because it's so satisfying. It's so warming, you know, in the wintertime. It really is.
Interesting. I'm sure I'd love to try it. So what else can you tell us, Valerie?
So I wanted to tell you about cheese, right? So I ate cheese every day of my life, loved it. I turned macro, changed my diet. By the way, I read Dirk Benedict's book like in the fall when I got it, and it was my New Year's resolution to be 100% macro. And I just turned a switch and I just did it. So it was only like a couple months transition. But I had been eating macro for about 5 years, and all of a sudden I developed this lump on my neck right here, and it literally like grew overnight to like the size of a quarter. And I was like, well, I know what this is. This is toxins coming out of my body, right? But you know, my friends and my family are like, oh my God, you got to go see a doctor. You got to go see a doctor. I'm like, I'm not going to see a doctor. The doctor's not going to know. So I found a Chinese doctor, Oriental medicine. In fact, I had to go to Canada to see him. And he immediately, as he sees me, he goes, oh, you know, you got to stop eating meat and cheese and dairy. And I turned to him, I go, well, I did like 5 years ago. He goes, that's what it is. It's mucus. He goes, it has to come out of you. It has to come out of you. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So I get that. So he said, I'm going to give you tea bags. You have to drink this tea, right? So you're thinking like small little tea bags, right?
Mm-hmm.
He goes, I'm going to give you these tea bags. You have to drink this tea. I'm like, yeah, okay. He proceeded to take brown paper bags and pull these drawers out and take twigs and leaves. And he filled this brown paper bag up with some concoction and gave it to me. I went home, and this was the most god-awful tasting, horrible tea. But I drank it anyways because he told me I had to. This thing busted open, and I wish I had taken pictures or videos or something, because clear pus came out, white pus came out, but also a white solid matter that I could literally take with my finger and put, like a white solid matter came out. And I was like, this is years and years of eating cheese. This is what was coming out of my body, was years and years of eating cheese, basically. And I mean, it's just weird that when you change your diet, you know, you see things like that. Like, oh, this was in my body. I don't want this in my body anymore. So cheese is never going into my body again, right?
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Yeah, I can't relate. I mean, I've never had any severe discharges like that. Grew up eating this way. But interesting story. So, what else?
I also had a pretty long battle with eczema. I mentioned it came out when I was about 18, and I didn't discover macrobiotics till I was in my early 20s. So when I started and I initially switched over and started eating macrobiotics, the eczema did go away, which was a blessing. But then it came back. And because I was in a very stressful place in my life, stress is a killer. Stress is the worst thing in the world for your health. You could be eating the healthiest food in the world. If you're in stress, you're in trouble. So I wasn't sleeping at night. I was in a very stressful relationship. And I was eating healthy macro food, but every Sunday I would make a pancake breakfast, and I would make blueberry syrup. It was blueberries, brown rice syrup, and maple syrup. And I would enjoy that every Sunday. I was also, you know, creating recipes with, again, using brown rice syrup and maple syrup. So they were healthy recipes, right? But I didn't have the body knowledge to know they weren't good for me. So the eczema came back. And I literally had eczema from my neck down, my whole body. I mean, I couldn't sleep at night. I was in constant pain. To put clothes on, it hurt. It hurt. And so I was about like that for over a year. I went to every lecture there was, and everybody suggested this herb or this homeopathic medicine. I took it all. I went to a naturopathic doctor, and he told me to take whatever he told me to take. I took it. Nothing helped. And so I got out of that stressful relationship, moved into my own apartment, got a lot of the stress out of my life. The eczema got a little bit better, but it didn't heal completely. That's when I did a hair analysis. I literally take a piece of your hair, you send it into a laboratory, and they tell you what is going on with your body. Mm-hmm. I thoroughly believe this hair analysis basically healed me or helped me or saved my life, because it literally, the report came back and said stress, 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 stress. Basically, you have stressed your body out so bad that your adrenal glands are not working. Basically, my adrenal glands were just lying there, not working. I also had a toxic level of aluminum in my system. So I think that had a lot to do with the eczema. I believe aluminum comes from vaccinations, and it also came from the fact that before I went macro, are you ready for this? I used to drink 6 to 8 Diet Cokes a day, and they were all in aluminum cans.
Yeah.
So I found out that I had a toxic level of aluminum. My adrenal glands were not working, and it said that I should not eat any sweets whatsoever, no sweets. So I'm a pretty disciplined person. So even though I was eating healthy, sweets, macrobiotic sweets, I cut all sweets out for 3 months. No sweets, none whatsoever for 3 months, because I had to get rid of this eczema. Now, this hair analysis program did recommend some supplements, and I did take their supplements. Some people like supplements, some people don't like supplements, and that's your choice. But at this point in time, I was in constant pain for over a year. So I took their supplements, and within 10 days, I was able to put clothes on, and I was not in physical pain. And so this finally healed the eczema. I took their supplements religiously for a year, and then I turned to herbal tinctures to help strengthen my adrenal glands. And it literally took 5 years for my adrenal glands to come back to where they were working. And every 3 months, I would do another hair analysis where I would send some of my hair in. They would give me a report. It's a fantastic report, and they tell me where I was. So that's how I knew it took 5 years for my adrenal glands to come back to where they're working. And so I have no eczema, knock on wood, but I finally healed it. It's gone. And so when I hear people talk about ailments such as eczema, and they say, "Oh, you're just gonna have it the rest of your life. There's no," and I'm like, no, it's not true. The food, macrobiotics in the food, was a huge part of it. But I had just depleted my body and basically hurt my body so much. I needed a little additional help, right? And eventually I overcame it. But I have huge compassion and sympathy for anybody who suffers with something like eczema, which is just, it's painful every day, really. And so, there are a few things that I've been able to heal myself from, and that was one of them, which I'm blessed that I don't have it anymore.
That's cool. I knew someone with eczema, and she just lived with it. She couldn't heal herself. But I'm glad you did. Now, I would think the aluminum would be a major factor. I mean, I know you say stress, but stress to me all by itself doesn't really do much, because different people will handle so-called stress in different ways, and for some people it's more of a challenge, and some people get. So when you say stress, I'm like, yeah, okay, stress, but what's underneath that? So, I mean,
Yeah, I think it's a personality type too. You're right. Some people deal with stress better than others. I know myself, the stress had a lot to do with, and eczema is a disease of people like me where we hold everything inside. We should be voicing it. We should be saying stuff, but no, we're trying to be compassionate and sympathetic. So we just internalize everything and keep it inside. That's another element of eczema, keeping everything inside, keeping everything bottled up, and the stress just builds and builds and builds and builds.
That I can believe. It's an autoimmune disorder, right? It's related to autoimmune.
I think they classify it as that now, but I'm telling you, if you have eczema, you need to get your aluminum checked. And all these kids that have eczema, it's from the vaccinations. plain and simple, clear. I mean, it's like 2 + 2 is 4. How can you
Vac-
not?
Vaccinations, probably also pharmaceutical pills, like especially the more heavy ones for mental illness and stuff like that. That they give them depression, anxieties, things like that.
Oh, of course. Yes, definitely. So do you want to hear about my upcoming cooking classes?
Yes, go ahead.
So I'm very excited. Next Wednesday, which is August 12th, I am teaching a class here at my house. So this is the second one I've done at my house since, we've all been in lockdown. And I teach the class outside. So we're in an open environment, and it's grilling. These grilling classes are so much fun. I have a barbecue out there, and I'm teaching how to make a grilled veggie burger. This is a new recipe with millet, lots of vegetables like beet and mushrooms, and it's got grated sweet potato in it. And then I'll be teaching different things that you could put the veggie burger on. You don't have to put the veggie burger on bun. I've got all these different ideas, things, you could put it on. And then I'm going to also teach how to make grilled corn, the best grilled corn ever. I apologize for that. That's my phone ringing.
Okay.
And I'm also going to teach how to make grilled vegetables with brown rice. I'm going to grill brown rice. I'm so excited about this. So this class is here in Westland, Michigan, if you're in the area. If you are not in Michigan, I teach the Zoom cooking classes. And so when's the next date? The 19th. The 19th is a Wednesday. It's from 6:30 to 7:30. I'm going to teach how to make a quinoa salad that has sauteed tempeh and peanuts, and it's got a creamy dressing. So that's a 1-hour class. The 1-hour Zoom classes are $20. And then on the 26th, Wednesday the 26th, I'm going to teach how to make black bean burgers, which is going to be fun. Everybody always asks me for a black bean burger recipe, so I'm doing that. The Zoom classes are a lot of fun. Like I said, you can attend from anywhere. I've had people attend from California, Florida, and I've got my ladies in Canada. They like to attend the Zoom classes. And in the class, I describe everything. I tell you about, why are black beans good for you, nutritional value. I tell you how to cook them, and I try and cover all the bases. And then, of course, my students ask me questions. I love questions. Really, I do. I love when the students ask me questions. And it's always fun when the students ask me a question that I can't answer. Because then I'm like, well, wait a minute. I have to do more research. And I have to look up and find more things. They say, if you want to learn something, teach it, right? Because I'm constantly being challenged by, the students and everything. And I'm always, want to absorb more knowledge, like teach, I want to teach more, so I want to learn more, right? And then I pass it on to my students when I teach the cooking classes. So you can go to macroval.com, that's my website, and you can sign up for my cooking classes.
Very good, Valerie. And I hope with your grilling and your sauteing and veggie burgers and all that, you're not burning any oil, because that's one of my pet peeves that I've noticed too often in macrobiotic circles: burning oil, burning fatty things, and because these cause cancer. So that's my one comment about that. I hope no oil is being burned in any of your classes.
So you're talking about cooking on extremely hot heat and the oil gets burned. Is that what you're talking about?
Fire is extremely hot, so anytime you use fire and oil, you're risking burning oil. It's not. I don't mean to get into a debate or anything like that. It's just my one common observation around the macrobiotic community that everyone tends to downplay, and it's actually really, really important. Please don't burn oil, anyone. And that's just a comment. We're running close to the end of the time allotment. I like to keep these under an hour. So I just throw in my stuff. I have my website, themacrobioticdiet.com. You can go there and check out my blogs. You can book an appointment with me, macrobiotic or astrology. You can sign up for my mom's class, Judy Floor. She's doing a webinar on August 15th at 10 a.m. What is family unity? We're asking $15, but pay what you want, you know? So if you want to pay less, you can. But sign up for that, and I got plenty more interviews coming up, so stay tuned for those. Valerie, any final words that you'd like to share with everyone before we close?
Well, thank you so much for interviewing me. This has been so much fun. I would completely enjoy working with you on any other projects that you have.
Yeah.
And I just want to say to anybody watching this interview, attend cooking classes. If you don't attend my classes, attend any cooking classes that you can, macrobiotic cooking classes, because I was in the food industry when I discovered macrobiotics. I knew a lot about food. I knew a lot about cooking. But to learn about macrobiotic cooking, you have to attend a cooking class. You really do. I mean, you can watch a YouTube video, and that's fine, but you need the interaction. You need to be able to ask questions, and you need a support team. You need to talk to other people that are doing it too. I just think cooking classes are so very important, and just attend them. Wherever you live, look for cooking classes in your area. Just attend cooking classes. It's very important.
I agree. If you want to learn how to cook, you have to go to cooking classes. So thank you so much, Valerie. It was really nice to meet you, and I very much enjoyed talking to you. So
thank you.
Thanks. And all right. Bye-bye now.